Kshama Sawant. Kshama Sawant ran for city council in 2013 as the Occupy candidate, the socialist candidate, and won. She pioneered the $15 minimum wage, a movement that has swept the nation and inspired thousands of workers, activists, and citizens to join the call for a livable wage. She's fought corporate influence in the gentrification of downtown Seattle, demanding affordable housing and taxation of the rich in lieu of bleeding the poor. At her rally on Saturday, June 6th, we were the only media there, which will become even more ridiculous when you see who else we're Googling. But first, take a look at our exclusive interview with Kshama Sawant just after her re-election kickoff rally. There's a tremendous international presence here. Why did you choose to have that?
We wanted to make the point that if we're fighting for social justice, then it's not a parochial fight. It's not just something that we care about. It's something that millions, hundreds of millions of people care about. And it's also something that we can win only if we have solidarity with hundreds of millions of people. So the point we are trying to bring about is that no matter what issue you're talking about, whether it seems small or big, that issue can be addressed and social change can come about only if we organize collectively and fight back. And we wanted people here, the 900 people that were here tonight, to see, and also the world that's watching through social media, we want everybody to see that our fight is everybody's fight.
And that is incredibly inspiring to see people from Ireland and Greece and Chris Hedges, who is such a pioneer of this concept. It was really, really inspiring.
Yeah, and it was inspiring to see, we had Ruth Coppinger from the Socialist Party in Ireland, which is a sister party of ours. It's a sister organization of Socialist Alternative. She was talking about the incredible voter mandate on marriage equality. And I think one of the points she pointed out, which is really critical for us to remember, is that in the working class areas, the vote for marriage equality was well over 80%. This completely belies this false idea we're given that we need wealthy people from the top to bring about this change, that ordinary people are stupid or socially backward. Those are all completely contradicted when we engage in real struggle.
Absolutely. And of course, the 1% wants the working class to become stupid because that means that we're less likely to vote. I'm curious, what has been the response in the city hall? I mean, it seems like you've inspired so many people in the grassroots. Have you also inspired your colleagues in the city hall to push for these issues?
I think there are at least a couple council members who have, they've been on the council for longer than I have, and they have tried to carry out, social change. One of them, Councilmember Nick Licata, for example, he was one of the voices that made paid sick leave possible in this city. So we do have a lot of agreement on those issues. I do think that having this approach that we've brought for the first time in many decades in City Hall, I don't remember when the last time this might have happened in Seattle in history, certainly not in our lifetimes. And what the approach that we are bringing is that if you want to make change happen, you can either be a radical activist on the ground, on the street, or you can come to City Hall, or come into politics, electoral politics, because and never the twain shall meet, because one is principled and the other is completely compromised and corrupt. Now, I can see where that dichotomy is coming from. One, it's coming from honest people on the ground who look at the corruption in politics and shy away from it, correctly so. I mean, I applaud the majority of Americans to be disgusted with U.S. Congress. But on the other hand, that idea is also propagated by corporate media and the corporations and corporate politicians because they don't want genuine voices in electoral politics. And we are blazing this new trail, new for our generations, that's not the difference. That's not the dichotomy we need to struggle with. The question we need to ask is, how can we push forward the agenda for social, economic, and racial justice? And what are the different tactics we can employ? At the end of the day, there is absolutely no alternative to build a fighting mass movement. And that does mean taking the streets. That does mean unions going on strike. That does mean non-unionized workers walking out of their jobs and taking that risk against their bosses. But it also means through those movements, leaders rising through those movements and occupying the halls, the corridors of power, so that we can actually go towards fundamental change.
Absolutely, and like you said, it's a two-prong effort. It's taking the occupation of the streets, and it's also taking the occupation of places like City Hall. So, really quick, just to wrap up, I know that you mentioned the international presence here and why that was, but how do you see, in a very concrete sense, perhaps in the next 2 years after you're reelected, because I feel like that'll happen, how do you see Seattle as a microcosm for the U.S., and how do you see this really concretely spreading even into the presidential election?
Well, I think the microcosm of Seattle as sort of an embryonic example of what can be possible nationwide and even internationally comes from not only what we win. If we win rent control, that will be a microcosm for a nationwide fight for housing justice. But it's I think it primarily comes not from the exact things we win, which themselves will be powerful, but from the strategies we employ to win, building a clarity in a broad-based movement that we may have differences amongst each other, but we have to build the left. We have to build the national left. And we have to be crystal clear. The Democratic Party establishment is not on our side. So if at the end of the if at the end of next year we will have a mass of people who are crystal clear that the Democratic Party establishment is a dead end, a graveyard of social movements, and that we need to set our vision towards building an independent left alternative, we would have won a great deal. We would have taken the movement a million steps forward.
For more on Kshama and her race to keep her place in City Hall, check out KshamaSawant.org.